Hello, holes and holes. Get hard, get steady, get your butts ready for me. Wee. I don't know where my microphone is. Anyways, this is a quick explanation from my zine and while my eyes move around. And it is off the basis of photons are squares. And I think that in my zine, I could probably dedicate a lot more pages to it. But currently it's one page. What I want to do with my zine is put in a lot more science stuff. Um, I want to be able to draw what I think is a representation of a person falling into a black hole. And everyone keeps getting it wrong. Like, it bothers me that people haven't drawn it correctly. And I guess I'm just going to say it right now. It should be as if you drew yourself falling into a black hole. In the beginning and the end, you would see the end, and then you would just see all the versions of you as if it was an animation. Anyways, we have here a lightning bug, and I wanted to know what made the lightning bug light up. And what I realized is that it basically gets excited, and it thinks about the thing that it can see, and it should be able to see a observed black matter border. So explosions. It can see little things exploding, and it scares it. It thinks that it's going towards explosions or something. It thinks it's dying, so its butt lights up. So from there, I was trying to think about how much light is needed to see things and emission when I realized it was backwards and that light is perfect and it exists in a realm that is a solid state, and only upon our observation do we collapse that state and destroy the photon. So the light is the destruction of life and time. Um, Instead of so here's your wavelength, and this is where light normally goes through and is drawn as a solid uh, between here light. But what I decided is that it is uh, fractured as if it was thin slices of light fractaled, and between them is what I see as uh, set growth or chromioplasty, which means light has either a choice of direction to grow in order to make a color, or no direction to be all colors at once. So just like a spin rate on a qubit, you have a grow rate on a fractal to change its color. I'm using the Minkowski space for the life of light or the photon, and instead of it being up and down Minkowski space, we turn Minkowski space sideways. So then we draw this, get it a little better. Doing drawing, happy drawing. Anyways, so we turn Minkowski space sideways, so it is the life cycle of light that is trapped within our reality. What I realized is that when it starts, something in the middle has to be pulling it. And that is your observation. That is the, what did I call it? I think I just call it the bit start, which is just one pixel or one square. That is your mind starting to think about light. From there, you're trapping light, and it is growing and collapsing depending on its grow rate, and it, it will follow the Minkowski pathways up until like the opposite. It'll start and then slowly start growing until this middle point where you exist, and that is your observation. That is the excite rate. So the photons are basically trapping post-hypercubes. So there's a bunch of hypercubes, fractals, that are floating around, and your observation is pulling light through the hypercubes, and that will make a shape, and that'll start a repeating pattern of crystals of light in whatever color until it hits the excite rate of your eyes, and that is the peak of excite rate, and it does not matter about temperature. So that's how you can have a metal pipe be glowing red hot and then also have a Christmas light or a lightning bug that has a green butt. It should be as bright and as hot as a star, but it is not because it is an excite rate of viewer observation. The hypercube that is floating around eventually goes out to be a circle because it follows the Minkowski possible past present realities of cylindrical cones. So either way, it starts off as a round light. There is an optimized observation where light has to hit a certain point and it can have no excess or minimal, or there's just excess. There's not an excessive amount of light. So the hypercube is only so big before it is no longer observed. What else do we have here? The, the pattern is infinite, and upon observation, it collapses it. Observation does not have to be there. It is just an observation for how much light can be wasted, how much light the photon emission, how much of the photon can be emitted before its state collapses, before itself becomes aware. And it becomes aware once it, I guess, gains consciousness. Between each of the pieces of growth and collapses as well is a uh, destruction color emission, which is if it is green and it chooses to pick green, or we'll say purple, because ultraviolet is cool, it is also doing all at once. So it's doing purple and then all, purple and then all. And that is what moves it forward. It's like a Christmas light, except it doesn't move at all. It is just an illusion. It is basically a fractal holding still and then passing it to the next fractal next to it. So it's hyper to hypercube conversation. And the hypercube grows, explodes, and then sends the kinetic energy to the next thing. So the light we see isn't moving, it is in standstill, exploding, and then going from there. That's it. Have fun with that information. Late Spates.